MINI turbocharged engines intake valve carbon removing. This video will highlight the procedure used to remove carbon from the back of the intake valves on MINI Cooper turbocharged engines. This procedure may be required when a rough idle, misfire, or stalling occurs. To begin, the intake manifold will have to be removed. Start by removing the turbocharger intake duct. Disconnect the electrical connectors. Disconnect the line at the vacuum pump. Remove the intake breather hose clip and then remove the breather hose from the valve cover. Loosen the intake duct hose clamps. Then remove the turbocharger intake duct from the engine. Working at the right rear of the valve cover, squeeze the collar on the breather hose and pull it off the valve cover. Loosen the intake air housing fastener. Once loose, lift the intake air housing up enough to detach the intake air duct. Remove the intake air housing from the engine. Loosen the sound generator hose clamp. Working at the windshield cowl, detach the sound generator duct from the cowl. Then, unclip the tab and slide it up, remove from the engine. Loosen the charge air duct hose clamps at the throttle housing and the connection at the strut tower. Remove the charge air duct from the engine. Be careful when removing from the throttle housing. The throttle housing is manufactured from plastic and can easily break. Disconnect the intake manifold pressure sensor electrical connector. Working below the intake manifold, remove the intake manifold support bracket fastener. Then remove the final 5 intake manifold fasteners. Pull the intake manifold away from the engine. Pull the EPCC solenoid rubber insulator off the bracket and lay it aside. Disconnect the throttle housing and purge solenoid electrical connectors. Pull the wiring harness mounts out of the intake manifold and lay the harness aside. Next, remove the intake manifold from the engine. Before inspecting or cleaning a particular cylinder, be sure the cylinder is located at top dead center of the compression stroke and the intake valves are completely closed. With the valves closed, use an inspection mirror or an inspection camera to view the back of the valves. The valves should be clean and carbon-free. If you have a condition similar to what is shown here, the carbon on the intake valves should be removed. Note the amount of buildup on the valves and the valve stem. To remove buildup, MINI recommends using a walnut shell blasting machine. Be sure to use a fine grit walnut shell media. Fill your walnut shell blaster and prepare it for use following the instructions supplied by the manufacturer. Confirm the valves on the cylinder you are servicing are completely closed. Then install the cylinder head intake port adapter tight to the cylinder head. Begin the cleaning process by activating your media collection system. Then initialize air and media flow with the blaster controls. Hold the intake port adapter securely against the cylinder head. Move the wand in and out at an angle to focus the media on one intake valve at a time. Then change the angle and repeat for the second intake valve in that cylinder head port. Periodically inspect the valve for cleanliness. Once you confirm the valves in the first port are clean, vacuum out remaining walnut shell media from the intake port. Rotate the engine until the next set of intake valves are completely closed. Repeat the carbon removing process. Continue until all 8 intake valves within the 4 intake ports are clean. When cleaning is complete, reassemble the engine and clear any fault codes that are present.